Storm Tracker 6. This is Forecast First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
We have a blanket of cloud cover over mid-Michigan this evening. We did also have a couple of rain and snow showers across the area earlier today. However, currently satellite and radar shows dry conditions beginning to move in from the west. In terms of temperatures, we're at 36 degrees in Lansing, 35 our current temperature in Mason and Jackson. We have a few more chances for precipitation as we go throughout the overnight hours, and then we have a big cool down to talk about for the weekend. 6 News at 5:30 starts right now.
WLNS is here for you with 6 News at 5:30.
Good evening and thank you for joining us at 5:30. I'm Siobhan Klepfer. Let's hit that clock. We have a lot of news to cover in the first 6 minutes, starting with some Michigan stories. A man is in jail tonight charged with killing his girlfriend's mom, along with injuring that girlfriend and her sister. Prosecutors in Kent County say 42-year-old Gilberto Hernandez Mendez shot 56-year-old Norma Ramirez Martinez on Saturday. They say he also shot the other two women at the same time. As of Monday, they are considered stable at a hospital. Police and prosecutors say Mendez is illegally living in the U.S. and has been deported before. We have an update tonight on a weekend stabbing in Adrian. We've learned the name of the man accused of stabbing a woman multiple times on Sunday. Timothy Neves Jr. was arraigned today and officially charged with assault with intent to murder. The woman survived the attack but is listed in critical condition. Officers found and arrested the suspect on Monday. Tonight, people in Detroit are still cleaning up from the water main break on February 17th. About 200 homes in a southwest neighborhood were impacted. The city is working with community groups now to gather non-perishable food, pet supplies, and cleaning supplies. They say baby formula and volunteers who can speak Spanish are also needed. Moving to southwest Michigan now, police say a juvenile from Indiana drove off the road on M60 near the village of Cassopolis and hit a house. This happened yesterday afternoon. The sheriff's office says the driver swerved to avoid another car. A passenger was taken to a hospital, but their injuries are not life-threatening and nobody in the home was hurt. Moving out of state, take a look at this. The roof of a firehouse collapsed under the weight of heavy snow. It happened Saturday in a town in New York State. Firefighters say they could hear several popping noises and were able to get out before that collapse. Nobody was hurt. On the other side of the country, in California, a man is safe tonight following a rescue on Monday where he was stranded on the side of a cliff looking over the Pacific Ocean. Emergency crews used a helicopter to lower a rescue worker and then pull both people back up, moving them to safe ground. Turning to international news, there was an outpouring of grief today in Israel where a mother and her two young sons were laid to rest more than a year after video of their abduction made them a symbol of the October 7th Hamas terror attack. Husband and father Yarden Bibas, who was also taken hostage but released, delivered an emotional eulogy, saying he wished he could have protected his wife Shiri and their children, 4-year-olds Ariel and 9-month-old Kafir. They were killed in captivity, and Hamas returned their bodies last week as part of a hostage ceasefire deal. Thousands of Israelis lined the roads for their funeral procession.
We were all hoping that they would come back home, and they kind of represent all the families, the very young families who were slaughtered on that day.
The Bibas funeral comes the same day Hamas said it would return the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages in exchange for the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, people living in a refugee camp are now looking for another place to live after their makeshift homes were targeted for demolition by the Israeli military. Israel sent tanks into the West Bank for the first time in more than 20 years on Sunday. At least 40,000 Palestinians have left their homes since Israel began its operation just a day after reaching a ceasefire agreement in Gaza. Back here in America, House Republicans have narrowly passed a framework for a new budget that would reframe the priorities of the U.S. government and pave the way for implementing President Donald Trump's legislative agenda. Lawmakers adopted a budget resolution that proposes raising the debt ceiling by $4 trillion to go with a $4.5 trillion tax cut and at least $2 trillion in spending cuts, which could impact Medicaid, nutritional assistance, and veterans benefits. The bill passed the narrowly divided House by 2 votes after a chaotic night, with 1 Republican and all Democrats voting no. President Trump worked the phones to convince some Republican holdouts to get behind the blueprint.
This is the first important step in opening up the reconciliation process. We have a lot of hard work ahead of us, but we are going to deliver the America First agenda. We're going to deliver all of it, not just parts of it, and this was the first step in that process.
House and Senate Republicans will now have to agree on a plan. GOP senators have already expressed key differences, including avoiding deep Medicaid cuts. Today, Republican Congressman Tim Walberg of Michigan, along with other Republican lawmakers, invited Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem to visit the Great Lakes state. In a letter sent to the secretary, the lawmakers say they want to discuss efforts to secure the northern border. They also say drug seizures are increasing across the border with Canada. Well, by now we are all familiar with the high cost of eggs, and in New York City, one enterprising deli owner found a way to reduce egg prices by selling individual eggs instead of the whole carton. He says he kept seeing customers leave cartons of eggs on the counter after realizing they just couldn't pay. So rather than charge, for example, $12 a carton, he started selling 3 eggs for $3. He says this is the highest he's seen egg prices go in his 40 years in the neighborhood. Here in Michigan, whomever purchased a winning Lucky for Life lottery ticket in Livonia has just 1 month left to claim their $25,000 prize. Lottery officials are asking anyone who bought a Lucky for Life ticket at Merriman Drugs for the March 26, 2024 drawing, well, you're going to want to double check them. And crossing the finish line for our first 6 minutes of news, the Red Bull 400, billed as the world's steepest 400-meter race, is returning to Michigan. The run is scheduled to be held on May 10th at Copper Peak in Ironwood. Organizers say the struggle to make it to the top, mixed with the amazing views, Kendall, make it the perfect blend of pain and happiness.
Yeah, just in that video there, I think we could see a lot of people in pain trying to make it up there.
I think I'd make it like 15 steps up the hill and go, you know what, just not worth it. Just carry me to the top.
Exactly. Somebody will come to help us along.
Unique idea for a race, though, for sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can get some training in over the next couple of days because we still are going to be incredibly warm.
Okay.
But still another chance for precipitation in the forecast tomorrow.